So in this module, I want to walk you through the product evaluator. There's a spreadsheet that you can download in this module. So look directly below and there should be a download link, and it's called the product evaluator. This is an Excel spreadsheet. So when you open it up in Excel, or if you're using numbers or Google Sheets or something like that, it doesn't always work exactly the same. But if you have Excel on your computer, it should work perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that you enable the macros. So there'll be a little pop-up that shows up. If you don't enable the macros, then you may actually get some errors and some of the calculations won't work correctly. So make sure you've enabled macros when it pops up if it asks you for that. It's a security thing. And that allows it to run some calculations in the background. So what I use this spreadsheet for is to when I'm evaluating a potential product. So I can put multiple products into the spreadsheet. Now the spreadsheet is locked, and we cannot unlock it for you, because if we unlock it, then what happens is people go in and they mess with some of the calculations, they mess with some of the fields, and the Helium 10 customer service just gets overrun. And they say, hey, the spreadsheet's not working, this is not working, it's not calculating, and they have to sit there and debug for everybody, like, what did you change? It's a complicated spreadsheet. And so for that reason, we don't unlock it. So I apologize for that. I know some of you like to customize it in some way. The spreadsheet is set up for the US market. So if you're selling in the international market, we may have one available in the future, but right now it's set up for the US market only. So I apologize for that, but you should still be able to use it, quite a bit of it. You could just make a few modifications and it'll get you most of the way there if you're selling in a market besides the United States. So let's take a look at how we might actually use this spreadsheet. So I'm just going to use our example of the ab roller. So I'm just going to go and type ab roller, and let's just say hypothetically we were considering this ab roller right here. Let's say we've done all of our research, we've vetted it out, and we're going to sell something very similar to this. So I'm going to take this ab roller, and there's some basic information on this page. Some of this you'll get from your manufacturer or from Alibaba, but for purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to use some of the information that's on this page, because if you scroll down, Amazon will actually give you some of the sizes here. If you look in the product details here, it'll actually give you some of the package dimensions and the weight. So we're going to grab it from here for the purposes of this demonstration, but ideally you would get this directly from your manufacturer or from Alibaba. But even sometimes on Alibaba, it's not the most accurate. It's best to get it from your manufacturer. But like I said, for this purpose, we're going to use it from here. So if this was the product, this ab roller, the way we're going to fill out this spreadsheet is we're going to come over to and open up the spreadsheet, and we have first columns here. The first tab, notice down the bottom, you can't see it here on the screen, it's cutting off, but there's some tabs along the bottom. The first tab you want to make sure you're open on is the product info tab. It's on the lower left corner in the bottom. And we're going to take the ASIN. This is an ASIN that we're considering or analyzing. And so the ASIN for this particular product, you can grab it from a couple places on the product. One of them is it's going to be at the very top in the URL. You can see it right here in the URL, the B00, or usually you can scroll down into the product information section, and oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes it's down there as well. You can see it right here, ASIN. So I'm just going to take that ASIN and copy it and go back to the spreadsheet and paste it in. And it made it really small, so we're just going to make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. There's the ASIN. You can put a description. This is you can call it whatever you want. It could be ab roller number 1 or ab roller fit necessary. It looks like it's a brand, Fit Necessary ab roller. So we're just going to type Fit Necessary ab roller. We can expand these fields out to make them a little bit bigger so you can actually see it. And then we can take a photo of it. This copy images copies it to all the other sheets. That's what this button does. But if we go back, we can actually take this picture. So if we zoom in on this picture, then we can then copy this picture, copy image, and then we can go back and paste it in. It made it really big, so let's just make it small so it fits in that little box. There we go, and there we have our image. Now, the factory price per unit, you would have gotten this from your supplier. Let's take a look at what they're selling this for. So they're selling this particular thing for $14.99. So let's just assume you would have gotten this number from your supplier, but let's just call it $3.50. It was the price that the supplier quoted you. Then we're going to put the length and width and height in inches. So sometimes it's in metric, you're going to have to convert it, but the length, height, and width in inches. And this is of the packaging. So not of the actual product, but actually of the packaging. So we can get that. You normally get that from your supplier, but we can get that here off of this page by scrolling down to the product info, and we could see right here. You're going to round up, so it's 11.1 inches. Up here it's 11.1 inches by 9.21 by 3.19. So what this is going to actually be is 12 by 10 by 4. So 12 by 10 by 4, and it weighs 1.5 pounds. I'll make a note of that. So 12 by 10 by 4 and weighs 1.5 pounds. Now my target price, let's say I'm going to do something fancy this, I'm going to sell it for $17.99 instead of the other guys selling it for $14.99. If I have a special launch price, maybe when I first launch the product, I'm going to come in at a lower price, and just to try to get some momentum going, I'm going to sell this initially for, let's say, $14.99, and then over time raise my price up to $17.99. If I've done the ranking, I know how many units I need to rank. There's calculations. We'll show you this later on in the course, or you actually can figure that out, or you can type in the values over here in the far right. So this unit's needed to rank from the top 3 keywords in the analysis tab. So if you filled out the analysis tab, which is this long-term analysis tab, if you come over here and you filled out these keywords here, you could actually, if you know what the keywords were, like let's just say that's ab roller is one keyword, ab wheel was another keyword, and oops, that's a CPR. Ab wheel is the second keyword. And you would grab this from your insurance, but you grab this from your research. But I'm just making stuff up here for the sake of time, so that we can I can show you as much as possible in the time we have here. And then let's just say ab roller wheel was another keyword that we found. There are our top 3 keywords that we're going to target. And then you could take the CPR of each one of these from Helium 10's Magnet or Cerebro tool. I'm just going to make up numbers here. I don't know exactly what they are, but for this purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to make up some numbers. I'm going to say this CPR is 30. This one is 18, and let's just say this one is I don't know, 25. So that will make a calculation for us of the estimated sales to rank for all 3 keywords if they're in the title is 51. And so if we go back to the product info tab all the way on the left, we can actually get that number of 51 right here. And then the units per master carton, this will be coming from your manufacturer. Let's just say that they told us there's 10 in a master carton. My sales per day target, I'm trying to sell, let's say my target on this is I'll be happy if I sell 15 of these a day. My manufacturer told me it's going to take about 30 days to make these. And my freight forwarder told me it's going to take about 4 weeks for these to ship over to me. My freight forwarder also told me there's some duties and tariffs on this that equal, let's just say 25%, because there's a Trump tariff on it and maybe some duties. To transfer the money from my bank to my supplier, I've had to do a couple transfers. Maybe my bank charged me $35 each time, so that's $70. If I'm doing a clippable coupon, after I'm ranked, I'm just going to say 0 for right now. My target PPC tacos, we talk about that later, but I always use a default of 10%. Yours may be higher or lower, but I use a default of 10%. I'm going to have an inspection done on this, which we talk about later. Let's just say that inspection cost me $225. I'm expecting some of these to be damaged along the way. Some customers return them. I'm just going to have to throw them away after I give them their money. I like to use a percentage between 2 and 5%, so I'm just going to call it 3% here. So I factor that into my cost. The other variable cost, maybe I had to have a logo done, maybe I had to have a website or something, I'm just going to say I spent $300 doing some other random things. So now we've completely filled this one out. And then we have this other column over here, AE, does this contain batteries? And the answer is no, this doesn't contain batteries. And this will tell me here that based on these numbers, I should be basically ordering about slightly under every 3 months, 4.29 inventory turns per year. We'll say, so now we've completed this entire first sheet. So if you look down at the bottom left, there's some additional tabs. The next thing we want to click on is initial launch cost. And initial launch cost is where we're going to enter some of our, these are like one-time fees, costs that we're not going to have every single time when we reorder this product. Maybe we had to do a trademark. I'm just going to call that $500. Maybe we had some photos done, and that was, I'm just going to call that $300. We had a logo designed. We paid somebody $100 to design a logo. We had to get our domain and set up our website. Maybe that was $200. Molds and samples, we didn't do any molds or samples. Our initial PPC budget to test, I recommend about $500. So we're going to put $500 here. Our launch service fees, if we used a company that's going to help us launch this product, like doing a search, find, buy, sometimes these companies charge anywhere from $3 or $4 to $15 per. And let's just say, for argument's sake here, you'd fill in the actual number once you talk to them, but let's just say it was $1,000 here that we had to pay. If we were running some social media ads to try to drive some traffic to launch our product, we would enter that here. For our purposes here, let's just say we didn't run any social media. And then you have some miscellaneous setup costs. If you have something that's not included in this list, let's just say we had $100 in miscellaneous expenses. We've entered our expenses. Now these are all costs that only happen one time. So it's only the first time that you order the product. So these won't be factored in on multiple reorders because these are basically like one-time setup fees. So then if we go over to the next tab at the bottom, you'll see the next tab is called the shipping cost to Amazon. And so a lot of this will be calculated for you based on the size and dimensions that you put in and how many are in a carton. So you can see here as we scroll across, it'll calculate the cubic meters, it'll calculate the total weight in kilograms, it'll tell you basically how much of a container you're taking. So based on what we entered, if we put these in a 20-foot container, we'd be using about a little less than half the container, 42%. If we put this in a 40-foot container, we'd be using about a fifth of the container. This is just an estimate here for air freight. These prices go up and down, and sea freight prices go up and down. If you notice down the bottom, there's a fees tab. On the lower hand right are the tabs, and there's a tab that looks something like this. And has the latest Amazon fees and charges, and it also has where over here in the right-hand corner you can change this. So if you're a freight forwarder, because maybe it's the holiday season, or it's prices are high because there's a pandemic or something, these rates can go up. So you can come over here and you can change this. If the weight per kilogram, maybe because it's a holidays and there's hardly any airplanes, it's $8. And maybe the C one, instead of 60, it's more like 150. So you can change these here depending on the situation. But a lot of these others are calculated for you. They're all from Amazon. So Amazon determines what the size is. It adds the weight is, and the dimensional weight and the weight, normal weight and the size, and it'll determine whether it's a standard size, a large size. So all these calculations on the rest of this fee sheet are pretty much done for you. You can adjust the two that like I showed here down at the bottom, the sea and the air, but a lot of the rest of this you're not going to want to adjust too much. But this particular one is open, so you can adjust it. And it'll show you the latest date up here. So make sure you're always using the latest spreadsheet, because Amazon sometimes changes these. So it'll show you these are as of June 1st, 2021. So if this is the end of 2022, and you're using a sheet that says June 1st, make sure there's not a newer version of the evaluator that has the latest updated information, because we will update, we'll replace this. So this is version 1.16 that this demo is being done on. So when you're seeing this, it could be version 1.17, 1.8, a different version. So make sure you're always using the latest version, and you can always go back and re-download it in this module. So back here on the shipping cost to Amazon, this will calculate a lot of this for you, and you can see this just dynamically changed everything here. So all these shipping costs on that first line are pretty much calculated for us. And we can go to the next tab at the bottom. So on this tab, the Amazon Fees tab, it's going to automatically determine this is a large standard size. It's going to automatically figure out Amazon's fulfillment fee, Amazon's referral cut, what it was going to cost you for storage during a non-quarter four, and what it'll cost you for storage during quarter four, and your total Amazon fees. So this is all going to be calculated for you. Now remember, these are approximates based on the latest data, so it may vary by a couple cents. This is not accounting software. This is just a estimation tool. So this is not precise science, but it gets you in the ballpark. So these are the fees. If you go over to the margins tab, you can see here on the margins tab, you can see it will calculate the cost per unit once on this first order and the second order. So you can see on the right-hand side, the first order, it's going to cost you $20.49 per unit. So you're actually losing $5.50 on every single one of these that you sell. That's not a good thing. On the second orders, because you had some fixed costs, you don't have to pay for trademarks again. You don't have to pay for some of the box design and packaging design and logos. It would be $17.24. So you can see here that based on the data that we just input, this is not good. You're going to have to either get this cheaper or sell it for more, or find something else, because you're going to be actually losing money on your first order. On your second order, it's a very, very small profit percentage, 4.19. Now, on the long-term analysis tab, another tab that's on the bottom, it will kind of show you and give you an idea of where you need to be at. So if you want to get an 100% ROI, you need to be at $34.47 as your target price. So based on these calculations, you're going to have to figure out a way, can I sell this for more money? Or do I need to look for a different ab roller, or do I need to look for an entirely different type of product? It'll also show you what the landed cost needs to be to get 100% ROI. So you can go back to your factory and negotiate. It's going to show you all these other figures for a 30% profit margin, for a 20% profit margin. If you want to get 150% ROI, it'll show you these numbers too. And so you can use these in negotiation, or use these for figuring out ways, how can I differentiate this product? And then it's going to show you about how many units you need to order. Now this is all based on what you just input, saying, I think we said we're going to do, what, 15 per day, I think it was? 15 per day was our target. So at 15 units per day, get rid of that. Based on how long it takes to ship, how long it takes to manufacture, the recommended order is 1,521. And so that means basically to get into this product, you're going to need access to about $31,000 in cash, a minimum of $25,000 to get into this product at these numbers, because you're going to have to give the factory a $1,600 deposit, and then you're going to have to pay for all the shipping. You got all the launch costs, you got all the trademarks and everything. So this accounts for everything. So this can get a little scary. You're like, there's no way it's going to cost that much, but this is accounting for every little cost that's often missed in almost every other tool and other estimator out there. Could you do it for a little bit less than this? Yes, but you're going to need to go in and make some changes. So if you're like, holy cow, that's way too much money, I can't afford that, then you're going to have to go in here and you're going to have to say, okay, what can I do to change this? Maybe instead of 15 per day, I'm going to be happy if I sell 10 per day. I'll be happy if I'm in spot 6 or 7 or 8 on the page. Maybe negotiate with your factory and say, hey, I really need these for $3. And you've come up with some unique angle or some unique packaging where you can sell this for, let's say, $19.95 instead. And you're going to raise your launch price, sell at $16.99 to start with instead. And then that's now let's see what that does to the bottom line. If we go back to the bottom line analysis, we can see now that our profit margin here on our first and second orders, we can see that now we only need 21,000 recommended, or 17,000 to get into it. So now we're shooting a little bit lower, and this maybe is something more that we can do. And the factory deposit is only going to be $1,000. So this will give you an idea, and this access to capital also includes your reorder. Remember we talked about earlier, you need 2.5 times your initial investment. So these numbers include that. So this is not your out-of-pocket that you need to have sitting there right this second, but it's the money that you're going to need before you launch, because you got to make sure that if this starts selling, you're going to have to place your reorders, and you're not going to have been paid from Amazon for what you sell. So these numbers include include that as well. So that's why they can be a little bit scary. They give you the total true cash flow picture rather than just a binary picture of a single event. But you can play with these numbers and try to find things that will work, and you can see the adjustments, but just making slight adjustments on some of the columns, especially on your product costs. Another way is you might be able to actually shave something off the height. Remember, that was 3.919 inches. If you're able to tell the factory, hey, can you get this to 3 inches instead of 3.19? Perhaps that's going to actually change something on the bottom line, because now you might be able to go into different size standard. Look, it actually did. The cost changed slightly there. So there's all kinds of things you can play with on this spreadsheet. So once you dive into it, you'll start to understand it a little bit better, and hopefully this will help you when you're analyzing your products. So best of luck, and we'll talk to you in the next module.